Hey guys, so it is the 30th of September and I thought I would just kick this vlog off just because I know I'm probably going to get at least some reading done today and I really just kind of want to start my Victober reading. So the bulk of this vlog will be my 4-day weekend, which is in about a week and a half. So the next week and a half I'll update you as I finish things, if I have something I really need to share. But most of it will be during those 4 days where I have a lot more time to just read and enjoy other aspects of Victober. But to start this off, like I said, I think I'm going to start today. I actually technically have already started, but I've literally read 2 pages of one of the books that I've started, or short story that I started. I probably would have read more, but I've been distracted by other things. But now I've been watching Downton Abbey with my friend and we just got to the end of season 3, which if you know, and she doesn't like sad things, so she's really mad about it. So we're probably gonna take a little break from Downton Abbey and hopefully she can calm down and we can come back into it later. But that just means that over the next week, hopefully I'll be able to get more reading done because we won't be watching that at night and I won't be as tempted to stay up late watching stuff with her. But we'll see, who knows? I'm not gonna torture myself and force myself to only read because that won't make it fun. So anyway, in this clip, I'm just gonna tell you what I'm starting to read and then share a little haul with you. So we'll try to make this quick. First of all, the one I've started is The Poor Clare by Elizabeth Gaskell. I'm going to be doing a podcast episode with my friend on this one, so we are reading it. It's only like 50 pages. Honestly, I could probably finish it in one sitting-ish. It would probably, because of the smaller writing and the language, classics take more time, so it would probably take me about an hour and a half to 2 hours, but I think I'll be able to finish that this weekend. I do have, so my church puts on every 6 months a big conference where our church leaders talk to us and share new insights they've had, revelation, and it's a really great time. I really enjoy it and it's very rejuvenating for me to listen to, and so that is happening this weekend. So it's actually 10 hours total, so it's a lot of time of listening to this, but so worth it to me, and we'll be doing that. So my time will be pretty broken up, plus on Sundays I want to be careful about how much reading outside of more religious stuff that I do, although classics, especially Victorian classics, depending on the book, I guess most of the time I feel like they're okay to read on Sundays because a lot of them have those moral values within them. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of them do, so I usually don't mind reading them on Sundays. But anyway, yes, I will be reading that very first so that I can be prepared for recording our next episode this week. And then I have, for audiobook, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. This I really don't know if I'm going to start. I think I will. I don't know. Either this morning or later today. I will be driving a little bit, and that's usually where I listen to audiobooks, so there's a strong chance I will. Maybe not right this morning. I'm going somewhere to watch the first session of the conference at a coworker's house, and so I'm driving over there, but I think I might want to silence so that I can kind of ponder and prepare myself spiritually for starting that. But then in between I'll come back here and watch the second part here, and then after that I'll be driving home to spend the night at my parents' so I can be with them for the Sunday sessions. So yeah, I'll probably listen to this a bit, at least get started on it. So that's my first plan. I am also doing Barchester Towers and I'm trying to read it throughout the month, so a certain amount of pages a day. So I need to divide that one up and see how many pages I'm going to need to do to work it out. So I'll be doing that soon. I haven't done that quite yet. I won't be reading that on Sundays most likely anyway, unless I like skip another day during the week. So I'm going to plan it like I'm not reading it Sundays, which means it's okay if I'm not starting it on the first. But first we're going to do a little book haul that I got. I wasn't going to this year, but it just felt wrong. I just felt like I had to have at least a few new Victorian literature works. But we'll get through this quickly because I would prefer to have a lot more footage during my 4 days off rather than have a ton of minutes being taken up beforehand. So the first book I got was The Importance of Being Earnest and Other Plays by Oscar Wilde. No, I have never read an Oscar Wilde play. I've only read The Picture of Dorian Gray by him, which I enjoy. It's not my favorite. Like, I know a lot of other people really love it and I see the value in it. It's just a style that doesn't appeal to me quite as much. But I've heard great things about his plays, and so I'm really, really excited about this. It also includes Lady Windermere's Fan, Salome, A Woman of No Importance, An Ideal Husband, and then of course The Importance importance of being earnest. Yes, I'm glad to finally have this. I've had it on my radar for a very long time, so it's just about time that I have this. And I also picked up another play by George Bernard Shaw, who I've never read anything by either. But this one is Mrs. Warren's Profession by George Bernard Shaw. This one was talked about by Roz at Scallydandling about the books, and it's about a woman who is the new woman. She is educated and has a career and is just doing amazing things that women beforehand have never really had the opportunity to do before. But she ends up going to stay with her mother, who she doesn't really have much of a relationship with. She doesn't really know very well, but she comes to find out that the way that her mother's been providing for this education and these opportunities for her daughter is through running a bunch of brothels. And so things go on from there, the fallout of that knowledge. It sounds so up my alley. I was like, okay, obviously this is one I need because it's very my type of subject, and I'm very excited to read this, honestly. And then the final book I got in that particular haul, I have one other to mention after this, but the other one I got in that haul is The Tower of London, a historical romance by William H. Ainsworth. So William Harrison Ainsworth wrote The Lancashire Witches, which I read, did I read that last year? I either read it last year or no, I read it 2 years ago and really enjoyed it. It was just a lot of fun, just magical and just very like everything you think about when you think of Halloween is in that book. It's just the epitome of like a Halloween read. Like it has witches with cauldrons living in this old abandoned tower in the woods and demons and poltergeists and all sorts of stuff in that book, and it's just fun. It was just a fun read. It was a little long. I feel like I would have liked it better if it was a little shorter. It started to drag out a lot, and the characters aren't necessarily very well developed. It's just more like a fun read, and I really enjoyed it for that. And this one is about Lady Jane Grey, who was Queen of England for 9 days in between Edward the Fifth, I think. Yeah, Edward V, Henry's son, and his sister Mary, or Bloody Mary as she's often called. And I was like, oh my gosh, I loved The Lancashire Witches. I just had a lot of fun with it, and I love the Tudors, and I think Lady Jane Grey is fascinating, and to have a book that's written during the Victorian era about her by him just sounds great. So I picked this up, and man oh man, is the type ridiculously small. I'm a little stressed about that fact, but this one's also one that's not really super in print. Like it wasn't necessarily the easiest to get. I mean, this one was only like $13. It's not like it's terribly expensive, but they don't have a lot of options. So, and then the last book I got separately, and it's a book I already own, but I just needed another edition of it, and that is Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. I'm doing an episode on my podcast with my friend about this book, and neither of the copies, I have two copies. I have one that's an annotated edition, so one that another person has written in, and well, not written in, but like typed out thoughts about things and historical context and stuff. And then the other one is a pretty edition, but it has like glossy pages. And so neither of them are very conducive to me just taking notes for the podcast. So this was only like $6 on Amazon, and I was like, I need it pretty fast. So I ended up purchasing it. Plus it's Penguin, and we love Penguin classics, although this is one of the newer ones, which I feel like a lot of people hate them. I don't hate it, but I do prefer the old ones, but I can't tell if that's just because I'm used to the old ones, and so this one I'm like, what the heck is this? It doesn't match. I feel like there's a strong chance that that's the case, but I also do like the orange. I just feel like it adds a little extra dimension to the colors, and I prefer when the author's name is orange. Anyway, mixed feelings there, but yes, I did get this for that purpose. And that is all. So I'm going to end this clip now. It's already longer than I wanted it to be, and I'll let you know. I think my next clip will probably be when I finish the Poor Clare. So I may also update periodically with the Sherlock stories. Since this is a collection of short stories, I may end up coming on here and chatting when I finish a different story, just so I can give particular thoughts about each one, or maybe every couple stories, we'll see. Hello guys! So, it's been a while since I've updated anything on here. I mean, I told you I was mostly going to be doing what's now this weekend, my long weekend for this vlog, but I kept meaning to update you because I did finish at least one thing, and then I didn't. And then my long weekend is suddenly kind of a little bit longer because on this past Saturday, so it is currently Tuesday the 9th or 10th, I can't remember exactly what day it is, and this past Saturday I had a sudden surgery. I ended up getting appendicitis. The symptoms really didn't show up until that morning, but they were pretty severe, so I went to urgent care, and after several tests they decided, yes, you have appendicitis, and they were like, do you want the surgery, do you want antibiotics, here's some pros and cons for both, and I decided to go with the surgery. If you follow me on Instagram, I did post a story just mentioning that I was doing some Victober reading in the hospital, and that's why I had my appendix taken out. I did go to work yesterday, Monday, because we had some new employees, and I'm a supervisor, and our manager, we're getting a new manager, and so it's just messy. I'm like the only one who really knows stuff about the training process. So I went in just thinking, oh, I'll just be sitting the whole time, and exhausted myself. So even though I only have 2 more shifts left this week before I had the weekend off anyway, I was like, okay, I think I need to take at least one day to just not even think about going to work. So I decided to take today off. I feel so bad because it's been kind of chaotic at work, as you can tell by what I was just saying with the manager situation and stuff. But anyway, all that to say, I felt a little bad, but I just think it's going to be for the best. I'm going to try to work, if not my whole shift tomorrow, at least most of it for Wednesday before I enter my 4-day weekend anyway, and at that point I can just let myself hopefully completely heal. They said it would be like a week to 10 days to heal. So yeah, that's been my past few days. It's been great. It's been an interesting experience. I apologize if my voice sounds weird. They did put a tube in my throat, and so it's a little sore and it's a little swollen. I may sound a bit odd while talking, or I may choke a little bit, which I'll hopefully cut out. But anyway, thanks to all of those who did reach out when I posted on my story on Instagram, who were just making sure I was okay. I really appreciated that. That was very kind. And for anybody who ends up commenting on this video to see how I'm doing, appreciation in advance, because I have amazing commenters and subscribers, and I know a few of you will. So anyway, let's talk about what I've been reading, what my plans are the next few days. So the one thing I finished was The Poor Clare by Elizabeth Gaskell. I ended up enjoying it. I give it 3 stars. It wasn't like amazing, but I think it was a really interesting story and one that will be really fun to discuss for the podcast. We ideally would have filmed that episode by now, but I ended up in the hospital, as previously mentioned, so we haven't done our recording yet. It's likely that episode will come up late, but by the time this vlog is up, hopefully you will have seen it, I hope. I'm really hoping that my resting today will allow me to at least be a little more functional, because right now, I'm just hobbling all over the place. Can't stand up straight, and I just feel mostly nauseous right now. It kind of depends on how I sit too, how I'm feeling. But anyway, focusing on my feelings on this, like I said, it was pretty good. It wasn't necessarily a new favorite short story of mine, but I did really enjoy it. I'm glad I read it, and I'm excited to talk about it with my friends. I think we're going to focus on being a peacemaker in our conversation, because I feel like a lot of the story is discussing the fact that because our main character in this story decides not to be a peacemaker, it really impacts not just the people that she's angry with, but also other people she really cares about. And so I think that's what we're going to focus on in our discussion. And it was really great just getting back into Elizabeth Gaskell's writing style, since it's been quite a while since I read anything by her. The last thing I read by her, I think, was Mary Barton, and I think that was just this last Victober, actually. I believe so. So it's been a year since I read any Gaskell, so that was really, really nice to get into that. As for everything else I've been reading, I'm not very far into The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes in the audiobook. I just haven't been listening to it, mostly just because I've wanted some thinking time, and then, like I've said, I've been out, so I haven't really been driving and stuff quite as much. So I'm not very far. I'm only in the 2nd story, so I finished The Scandal in Bohemia and found that one really interesting, and then I am in the middle of The Red-Headed League, which has been humorous to say the least. So yeah, we'll keep going with that. I really liked A Scandal in Bohemia to meet Irene Adler. I've seen a lot of, Sherlock adaptations and heard things and stuff, so it was nice to get to know her in the original text with her. And yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun listening to that as I've been able to. Hopefully today I'll be able to get a little bit more in, since I don't know how much physical reading I'll be able to get myself to do, but I can at least do some listening. So we'll see how that goes. I may listen to more of that today. I have been working through Barchester Towers. This is what I was reading in the hospital. I have been reading just a certain amount of pages a day, like I've mentioned before, and that's been going well. It's still in the early stages where it's really focused on church politics and stuff, which, while I don't dislike, it's still not the most interesting to me. That's probably like my least favorite part about Trollope novels, is all his focus on politics. Church politics and governmental politics just tend not to be things that I'm really all that interested in. I'm more into the way he addresses characters and relationships. I love how he creates characters that are all flawed, and maybe a lot of them you don't really like, but none of them feel like caricatures. Like, they all feel like real people. They all have some redeeming qualities, and so they're not all bad. They just feel very realistic, and I really love the way he does that, and I've definitely been feeling that. I will say this book has made me laugh out loud several times already. I think Trollope is one of few authors that actually make me laugh out loud when I read their books, which I absolutely adore. I was a little worried reading this in the hospital because I was like, I can't have this cracking me up because it hurts to laugh. Luckily, the portion I read while in the hospital didn't make me laugh, so that saved me a little bit of discomfort. But I will be reading this today. I missed yesterday's reading because I was done and went to work and exhausted myself, so I'll need to read double the amount today, which is fine. That's what I did in the hospital. It will probably just take me an hour and a half to do. So yeah, right now I would say my feeling towards that book is I'm enjoying it, but it's not like I'm in love with it yet. It hasn't quite hit the point of the story that I think will engage me a little bit more, but I know I've heard other people talk about like a certain point where something happens with one of the female characters that is really interesting and gets people engaged, so I'm kind of waiting for that. We did just meet the Stanhope family. I was like, I can't remember what they're called, the Stanhope family, and I'm really interested in them, so we'll see how that goes, but I'm enjoying myself for sure with that. I would say right now it's probably like a 3.5 star rating level of experience, where like I'm not super engaged, I'm not like super pumped about it, but like I'm happy to be reading it. It's above average, like I'm actively enjoying myself. I just don't have anything super standing out to me quite yet besides the humor. So that's where we're at with that. And then I have also gotten a bit into Sylvia's Lovers, not very far, again for all of the reasons I've already mentioned. I haven't read very much. I'm hoping I can finish this during my long weekend though. I'm really liking it already. The atmosphere is amazing. A lot of people have compared this to Wuthering Heights as far as the atmosphere goes, and I can kind of see that, but I feel like it's more, I don't know if I would say it's exactly like Wuthering Heights, because it's just giving me all of the seaside vibes and like a little more of a gothic seaside vibe. I just can't put my finger on exactly what it feels like, but I'm really liking the setting. That's all I'll say. I'm really liking the setting, and I think I'm really gonna like Sylvia as a character. Maybe not like want to be friends with her, but I feel like I'm already really interested in her and her responses to things and her relationships with characters. I'm interested in Mary as well, her friend, and them being foils for each other. So I have actually really high hopes now that this possibly could become, if not my favorite Gaskell novel, up there. Right now, I would say North and South and then Wives and Daughters are my top two. But this one, I don't know where it's going to end up, but I feel like it could be right up my alley based on what I've read so far and heard. I feel like this has a strong chance to become potentially even my favorite Gaskell, but we'll wait and see. But so far, I just have a lot of hope for what I'm reading. Like, I feel like it's all really good so far, and I'm just having a good time. So I'm hoping today I'll be able to get some good reading in. Originally, I was planning to cook something from my Dickens cookbook for this long weekend, but I don't think that's gonna happen. That's gonna have to wait till my next long weekend, which will be the very last weekend of the month. I have a 3-day weekend, so I'll be able to move around better at that point and actually like cook stuff. So yeah, that will probably have to wait. I do have a little book haul I'd like to show you that's not Victorian, but I did get a few books. Between book of the month, I ended up having 2 add-ons, which maybe wasn't that smart because I don't need more books on my TBR, but I was like, it came up while I was feeling a little sad, and that just means that retail therapy just gets the better of me. And then I have one book that I pre-ordered a while ago that came in. So all of those were waiting for me at my parents' house when I got brought home from the hospital. Right now I'm in my own apartment, but the day I got out of the hospital, Sunday, I stayed overnight at the hospital, and Sunday I was at my parents' house and I had those books waiting for me. So I was like, well, at least I'm going home to some book mail. So it worked itself out, even though it was, like I said, more books than I probably needed to get at this time. As far as my emotional state, it was probably a good time for that. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I will update you, I don't know, if I finish something or if I have anything to say about Barchester Towers or something, I'll come on here and let you know. I think I'll also probably do some Victober video watching. I have a playlist that I've started making that's just for like watch later, but specifically for Victober videos. So I'll probably do some of that when I'm like, I don't have the energy to physically read and I'm not really wanting to listen to my audiobook. I want to like physically watch something. So anyway, we have things to do, and like I said, I'll probably only end up working one more day this week. So yeah, that's all I have to say. This clip is long, so we'll shut it down here and I'll update you whenever I decide I want to. Alright guys, so it is a few days later. As you can see, I'm wearing the same clothes. Don't worry, I have changed. This is just like the most comfortable for what is going on for me to sit in, so I have been putting it back on regularly. But I wanted to give you a little update. So it's officially the first day of my like long weekend that I originally planned, and I wanted to, like I said, give you an update on some of the Victober stuff I've been doing. Honestly, not a lot of thoughts on my reading. So Barchester Towers I have been keeping up with. Sylvia's Lovers I haven't really read anything more of in the past couple of days. I'm actually a little bit disappointed in myself about it, but to be fair, I just have been really tired. So I get done with my Barchester Towers reading and I'm like, okay, now I just want easy, fast entertainment, like watching stuff instead of reading. But hopefully I can get myself to just read Sylvia's Lovers, because it's not any feeling of dislike. For sure, I'm really liking it. I also apologize in this clip if anything I say makes no sense, because I'm definitely like so out of it. Like the brain fog is so real with this whole thing. So, and I stayed up way too late last night talking to my roommate because I was so bored the past couple days just being by myself sitting around. So I just had to talk to her and play some games with her, and it was fun, but I definitely stayed up later than I should have, so I'll probably need a nap today. Anyway, so yeah, not much to say about what I've read, but I did watch the miniseries adaptation of Bleak House, which I enjoyed. I feel like I respect the way they captured so much of the book. I just feel like there's just a lot going on in Bleak House, a lot of characters, a lot of stuff happening, a lot of plot lines, and I feel like they tried to shove it all in the miniseries, which I can respect. They had a lot of episodes, so they could have done it, but they still did it in a way that made it feel so overwhelming, and I think a lot of it was just how they filmed. Like, it was a lot of close-up shots and like out of focus shaky cam stuff, and I'm not one that gets annoyed with the shaky cam, but it was extreme in this adaptation. I also didn't really like the interpretation of Jarndyce. I just feel like it was a very basic surface level interpretation of Jarndyce in my opinion. No spoilers, but suffice it to say there's something in his relationship with the main character that's a little strange, and I feel like I interpret it in a way of like, I guess a little bit more in a professional way than how it's portrayed in the adaptation, and I could see other people not interpreting it that way, so I don't feel like it was a bad interpretation because I can understand people thinking that way. It's just not the way I interpreted him, so I just didn't really enjoy that. And there were also just a lot of like loud dramatic sounds. Like I feel like it was trying to create this eerie atmosphere, but it almost tried too hard to where it just felt overdone. So I was kind of disappointed in it. It wasn't a bad adaptation by any means. Like, I definitely think it followed the book really well, like I said. I just think the director choices, as far as a lot of the shots and the ways the scenes were done, was just not the way I would have liked it. I feel like it created a weird atmosphere to me and made it not very fun to watch. Like, it wasn't a very fun experience watching it. But it was fun to see a lot of the actors in that. Of course, it was like the era of time where all of the period drama adaptations that have like all of the same British actors in it, and so it was fun to see a lot of actors that I've seen in other films and series and stuff. Yeah, definitely not my favorite, I would say, but it was enjoyable relatively. I mean, I got through it and was fine. I love Lady Deadlock. Like, watching it, that is one thing. I liked the interpretation of her. There were a couple moments where I felt like she was overdone, but I felt like overall it was pretty good. That all being said, I would love to see how they would redo it if they were ever to redo the miniseries adaptation version of it. I feel like Dickens definitely lends himself in most of his books to a miniseries adaptation, and so I think that's good, but I would be very curious to see an updated version, how another director would work with it, with the specific atmosphere that's in Bleak House. I think it could be really interesting. I feel like there was another character that I didn't love the interpretation of, but I can't remember who it was. Oh, but one thing I will say is the guy that plays Skimpole is in the 4th season of Merlin as the most insufferable character ever. And in this, Skimpole is just an insufferable character as well. And so that actor is like quickly becoming someone who like I see and I find I'm so irritated by, but it's just because he just plays insufferable characters so well. That is a side tangent, but anyway, yes, that's what I've been doing for Victober. I've also been watching some Victober videos, which has been fun. But yeah, I hope in the next couple of days I'll be able to get through, if not all of Sylvia's Lovers, most of it. I think there's a good chance I will if I can just get myself to read. Oh, I also watched Far From the Madding Crowd last night, which is so good. I've seen that one before, the 2015 adaptation of Far From the Madding Crowd. It's probably one of my favorite classic adaptations I've ever seen. Like, it's just beautiful and the music's so perfect. Like, I listened to the music of that show and it just has all of the Victorian feelings that I love, and I just think the characters are so well portrayed. There's Sergeant Troy is probably the only one that I don't love his portrayal in that. I just have personal tastes and interpretations of him that do not match at all with how the movie does it. And I feel like the movie makes him into a little bit more of he's actually in love with this certain person, but when you read the book, I feel like it's pretty clear that he just is very flaky always. Not like there's not anything he's not flaky in. That's all I'm gonna say to avoid spoilers. But anyway, I love that one. As for how I'm feeling, I'm getting better for sure. I'm not 100%, but I didn't expect to be. But I'm definitely able to walk around better and the pain's going down. I have been a little more nauseous the past couple days, so that's not been fun, but things are improving. Things are definitely improving. So there's that. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention coming on here, I have reached 1,000 subscribers and I'm so grateful to all of you. I know a lot of it has been from Victober, and so I'm feeling so blessed by it. I have been just under like 30 subscribers under 1,000 like all year long, and it will go up and go down so much. I'm hoping it doesn't go down below 1,000 subscribers at this point. I hope it will stay up. I mentioned on my Instagram story about it, and I really do booktube just for the creative outlet. Oh my gosh, like I said, I can't speak or think right now. For the creative outlet that it gives me, and so like I've never really been that concerned about subscribers. I mean, it's impossible to not look a little bit. Okay, maybe not impossible, but most people are at least gonna look a little bit and like want it. Like when you're almost at those milestones, you're like, just go over, just because. And so I've been like that all year. And so while it's not like my end all be all or anything, I'm so grateful to be reaching that milestone finally after all this time. So thank you to all of my new subscribers for helping me get there. Thank you to all of those who have been around for a long time. I really appreciate it, and I feel like in recent months I've had a lot more interaction with comments and stuff, and I really have appreciated it. I'm not always the best at connecting with people online, but I do like see it. I do respond to all of my comments as best I can, and I honestly am very grateful for the recommendations and the feedback and all of that. Like, it just means so much to me to be a part of this community, and every little bit means a lot to me. So thank you. While I'm thinking about it, I wanted to make sure to say that, and hopefully I'll be able to continue to bring content that people like to watch beyond Victober. But even if you just watch for Victober, that works for me. Those are my favorite videos to make and plan for and stuff anyway. So I'm going to end this clip here. Hopefully next time I update you, I'll have made it a good way through Sylvia's Lovers. I think that maybe my plan is I won't update this until I'm at least halfway through Sylvia's Lovers, so I can give you a more solid update on how I'm feeling on that book. Okay, let's chat because it's been a couple weeks since last time I filmed a clip. It is the 28th of October. We only have a few days left. It is my 3-day weekend that I've been mentioning. Like I said, I was going to do these as separate vlogs, but I really have barely read. Okay, yesterday, literally last night, I finished 2 of my Victober reads, but in between I had barely read anything. So I decided to just have kind of a slightly longer vlog and do it all together since my whole month was thrown off by my surgery. If you're curious, I'm feeling much better. I still have a little bit of healing to do, but nothing that like hinders my ability to function. It's more just kind of like slight pain, especially if like I'm wearing pants that rub against my incisions or something. And then these steri strips that are kind of keeping them together still haven't fallen off. I was told to just let them fall off on their own, and they haven't quite done that yet. So we're basically kind of just in the tail end of healing. So not too bad, thankfully, and we're getting past it. Like I said, I have read 0 things pretty much since last time I updated you, at least as until yesterday. Like I said, literally yesterday, I just finished 2 things super fast. I will say I put down Sylvia's Lovers, unfortunately. Not because I wasn't liking it, I just was not in the headspace after my surgery to physically read hardly anything, especially classics. And so I was continuing with Barchester Towers, and I was like, I just need to limit how much I'm giving myself. So I was like, I'm just gonna focus on Barchester Towers, get through that, and if we have time, we'll try Sylvia's Lovers, but I kind of doubt we will, and we didn't. So I also didn't even really listen to The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes audiobook very much this month until yesterday. Like I said, I was like, okay, let's just get through this. I had time at work where I was just working in the back room on shipment stuff, and it was my whole shift, and so I was like, I'm just gonna literally just see how far I can get in Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and I ended up finishing it. So let's start by talking about that. Here's my cute little copy, and I really liked this. I don't know if I could give you like a specific story that I would say was my favorite. I really liked them all. I guess a few that stood out to me were the Bascombe Valley mystery, the 5 Orange Pips was interesting, the Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle, the Adventure of the Copper Beeches was interesting. I liked A Scandal in Bohemia mostly because I like Irene Adler and that whole situation, so that was interesting, but the story itself wasn't particularly to me. The Adventure of the Speckled Band was one that I liked, but then I also thought it was kind of ridiculous. So anyway, there was that one. I just enjoyed myself a lot. I ended up giving it just a solid 4 stars, mostly because I feel like it was one that I just enjoyed myself and had a great time and thought it was fun, but it didn't have that X factor that made it higher. It wasn't like gripping my heart, but it was very entertaining and one I would definitely return to just because it was fun. So yeah, I would say I did really enjoy this. Glad I read it, and now I think I only have 1 Sherlock Holmes left that was written during the Victorian period. I think The Hound of the Baskervilles is the only one left that I have that was written before the death of Queen Victoria. It might have even been right after, but anyway, I think the rest are all post-Victorian, so that's kind of exciting. I'm making my way through, and yeah, really enjoyed this, so great. Then I also, last night, I was going to read, so there were a lot of missed days with Barchester Towers as far as I kept not reading it and reading my portion of pages, so I kept having to adjust how many pages I had to read a day, and I was just struggling to really find the motivation and brain power to just sit and physically read it. So I ended up just listening to the rest on the audiobook. I had gotten the audiobook before Victober, like long before Victober, and I just never listened to it, mostly because I kind of wanted to read this physically, but I wanted that as an option. Since I had listened to The Warden on audiobook, I was like, well, maybe it wouldn't be too bad to listen to Barchester Towers as well. So yesterday I had about 200 pages left, and I was like, I know I want to finish this by the end of the month, and I kind of wanted to finish it today if possible, but I knew my brain would not be able to focus long enough to read even 100 pages both yesterday and today. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I just listen to the audiobook? And then I started the audiobook, and I literally only had like 4 hours left, and it was like 8 o'clock when I started, and I was like, I would just stay up till midnight, and I don't work tomorrow, so I can sleep in and that won't be an issue, and we can just finish this. So I just did that. I just did a little bit of cleaning, some coloring, playing some games and stuff while I listened, and it was really nice, and I ended up finishing it. So this one I definitely liked better than The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, but mostly just because it was more to my tastes. I still only gave it 4 stars, so I actually rated it the same, mostly because objectively
Objectively, it was a better book than Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, so maybe it deserves more like a 4.25, but it still didn't quite have the X factor that made me like love it. I just think that while I find the church politics in it very interesting, those aren't the kind of things that make me love a book, and I think a lot of the focus of this plot was on the church politics, not really much else, and so I don't know. Anthony Trollope, especially with this book and maybe one or two others that I've read by him, is very interesting because I feel like his plots aren't, at least in one or two of them, I've read multiple and have found different things in different ones, but in this case his plot was very lacking in my mind, but his writing is so fun and he makes me laugh, and I do think his character work is very, very interesting. I love the way he creates characters that you kind of hate, but also like in a very real person way. Like they're not people that are just super caricatured like in Dickens and stuff, where you're like, obviously this person is horrible. For example, a lot of people talk about hating Mrs. Prouty, who is kind of one of the main figures within this series. And personally, while I would definitely say she is a difficult woman to like, I also feel like she's not unrealistically awful. Like there's moments where you kind of get behind her and agree with her, and then there's moments where you don't. And there's some moments where you appreciate her unwillingness to lie down and take it, where she's great and fights back, but there's also moments where you're like, oh my gosh, chill, woman. And I love the way Anthony Trollope does that. There's also Mr. Slope, who, especially by the end, I really didn't like. I feel like when he was first being described and explored, I was kind of in the camp with Eleanor, I guess, of being like, y'all need to chill. Like, yes, he's not the greatest person, but like he's just kind of doing his job and it's fine. Definitely by the end I ended up being more like, okay, you are a piece of work. But I still, again, I feel like there were still moments where you see some level of good in Mr. Slope, but then so much else of the time you really don't like him, and so ultimately you don't like him. Like, it's just very real people that Anthony Trollope explores, and I love that. So yeah, I would say, would I recommend this series? I've just read with just the first two specifically. Yes, but be aware that it's a lot of church politics, and you kind of have to prepare yourself to be interested in that a little bit. There's still some romance and some other things going on, and there's very interesting characters. Like I said, the most enjoyable thing about these two books, The Warden and Barchester Towers, for me was the characters and their development and just seeing their relationships with each other. He just creates such real characters and I love it. So ultimately, did enjoy myself a lot. Is it a new favorite? No, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited to continue on in the future with Dr. Thorne, I believe is the third one, which I know is one of his more popular ones. So I'm hoping it will kind of fit with my tastes a little bit better, where we're exploring these wonderful characters that I've loved. And I'm sure there will still be church politics, but also seeing a little bit more of some other things. So we'll just see how it all goes. I don't know. But that is it for my updates for right now. So for the rest of this weekend, today I really want to get a lot of cleaning done, both in my room and then also on the main part of my apartment that I share with my friend. Our dishwasher is broken, so we need to hand wash a bunch of dishes, and I'd like to vacuum. It's been a minute since we vacuumed, and while it's not horrible out there, it is getting to the point where it needs to be vacuumed. I need to do laundry, and I really want to get some artwork and stuff hung up today that we've kind of been neglecting. So yeah, that's the plan. And while I do that, I'd like to listen to some Victober videos, because I have a long playlist of Victober videos and videos that are just watch later that aren't necessarily Victober I need to get through, so I would love to do some listening to that. I was going to listen to The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, was my original plan, but I'm done with that, and then I was going to listen to Barchester Towers, and same thing. So now we'll do some Victober video watching to cover that. I did do an episode with my friend for our podcast of Wuthering Heights, and I need to edit the rest of that, at least the first part, so it can be up on Monday, so I'll need to do that today. I intend to grocery shop. I'm going to make baked apple pudding, I think was what it was called, from my Charles Dickens cookbook. I think I'm going to do it on Monday, but I needed to get some of the ingredients today. So we'll do that, and then I'll probably just read, but I'm planning to read Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. I got this as part of my book of the month, as you can see right there, for this month, and I've been reading this as kind of a book outside of Victober, and I really would like to finish it this weekend. So that is my goal. It's a kind of magical realism tale about two sisters who grow up in this house where everybody in the town thinks that their aunts are witches and therefore that they are witches, and it just kind of explores their lives. I read The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman last month or 2 months ago and loved the first half, hated the second half, but I really loved her writing style, so I was like, I'd love to try one of her more popular works, well-known ones. I think this one was published in the 90s, and I'd love to read it and then watch the film adaptation with Sandra Bullock. So that is my plan as far as that goes. Hopefully I'll be able to, if not finish it today, almost finish it today, so I can finish it for sure on Monday. And then I think I'm going to try, I didn't quite reach all of the Victober prompts, so the two that I didn't quite meet were a new to you author and the new woman prompt. So if possible in the next few days, I think I might try to read Mrs. Warren's Profession by George Bernard Shaw. This is a play, so it's a lot shorter. It's not very long at all, just barely over 100 pages. So I don't know for sure that I'll get to this. I'm not going to force myself to or anything, but I will try to see if I can get myself to do it, so then I will be able to cover both of those prompts. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I'm not gonna stress too much about it, but that is a possibility. And yeah, I think that's everything. So I am going to be cleaning, watching Victober videos, and I'll probably come back to you once I end up making the apple pudding stuff from the Charles Dickens cookbook, so that you can be a part of that. Alright, so I have made my apple pudding. You would have seen some clips from the process, and of course I added ice cream because my American heart said, of course, we don't want too much fruit. But let's taste test and see if this is worthy of future work or if it's gross. I like it. It has kind of like a Christmassy cobbler vibe to it. Like, it has the apple, of course, but also nutmeg. So it kind of has like a Christmassy Thanksgiving-y sort of taste. And then there's like toasted breadcrumbs throughout it. And so that adds a nice like crunch. Yeah, I like it. Really good. So there's that. I think I'm going to actually end the vlog here. I did not end up reading any more Victorian lit. I did finish Practical Magic, which I'll discuss in my wrap up for the month. But yeah, I mean, it's not even 3 o'clock yet, but I really am not in the mood to read very much at all today, I think. I've just been watching chick flicks, so that's what I'm gonna do. I have like a couple Halloween parties tonight that I potentially will attend. I'm going back and forth because one of them I think is a little more my speed, but it's just with my coworkers at work, and I'm not really sure how much I'm in the mood for a lot of company right now in general. And then the other one is like a big dance sort of thing going on through my church, and that one I'm just not really sure. Well, two things. First of all, I'm not really a dance person. I love dancing and going to dances and stuff. Well, okay, back up. I should say I really like dancing in a party setting, but I tend to not have as much fun at dances in general as events, because usually I don't love the music, and I also just feel kind of overwhelmed with how many people are there. And tonight I would be going with my roommate, and she'd probably want to spend most of the time with her boyfriend, almost boyfriend, that she's dating right now, which is so happy for her, but I don't really have anybody else I would hang out with. And while I don't mind being the third wheel with them, they're pretty respectful and nice, and they're both great to be around and stuff. I don't always want to be in that. I'm not always in the mood to do that, and I don't know how much I'm in the mood today to do that. So I don't know, I'm going back and forth. We'll see what ends up happening, but that doesn't matter to you because, like I said, I'm ending this vlog here. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below how your Victober went, as I would love to know. I hope it was wonderful, everything you could have imagined. I would say mine was middle of the road, just with everything going on, but it wasn't bad for sure. It was definitely a pretty enjoyable Victober overall. There was just a lot of chaos going on in the midst of it, but glad as ever to have participated. Love all the videos. I have a whole playlist of videos I still need to get through, so I'll continue doing that, and then also, of course, continue to read Victorian literature. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!